Hi, good morning. Welcome to Podiatry Practice Mastery. Don Pelto here. I want to talk a little bit today about doing a podcast. I want to share, I've shared this a little bit in the past for those that may have listened, but I have certainly flopped at doing some podcasts. The first podcast I did a number of years ago was called Heal My Foot Wound Fast, and it was a podcast on wound healing. And what I realized is to talk about wounds, it's really hard without showing pictures. And it was a good learning experience. I learned how to, use basically Fiverr, which is that website, Fiverr.com. They did my intro, they did my outro in terms of music. I was able to do it. I think in those days I used Libsyn, and I did a number of episodes. It was a fun experience. And it was a flop, basically. No one listened to it. I kind of got bored of it. I wasn't really passionate about wound care. I did it more because my partner wanted me to be this wound care. That's what I thought I wanted to do in the beginning, but I've realized I didn't really like that. And that's the first thing with wound care. First flop. Second flop was with, and it wasn't really a flop, I guess. I've been doing this local television program called Healthy Living. This was a learning experience. I wanted to go on public television, not because I wanted to be on public television, because I don't think anyone really listens to public television, but they did all my editing work for me. So it was a way that I could get the community to do all the editing work, and a lot of those videos I put on YouTube. And that was fun. I interviewed different people in the community about different topics. If you go to my YouTube page and you put in Healthy Living, you'll see there's a lot of fun interviews. And I did this both at the studio. There's 2 studios in my local community, one in Worcester and one in Shrewsbury. And basically I used my day off to do that. And it was more fun and educational than it was profitable. And so I'm trying to help you guys not make the same mistakes that I did. It made some good contacts, but really these weren't the referral sources who I get patients from. And so those are my kind of 2 flops with Healthy Living. That's why I kind of transitioned that Healthy Living interview series. During COVID, I switched it to Zoom, which made it a lot easier to do these. And then now I'm working more because we opened the second office. I don't have that day off to do my interviews. But that's where I learned how to do the Calendly. If you're not using Calendly, if you're thinking about doing a podcast, Calendly makes it really easy to schedule interviews. You just kind of put the time that you're available and people can pick the interview time, and it works pretty well. And that's when I switched it to Podiatry Practice Mastery. So these Healthy Living interviews were really kind of fun. I enjoyed meeting people, but I didn't make any money. Podiatry Practice Mastery is another thing. I'm not making any money. But I'm really enjoying it. So I don't know if there's a connection between liking something more and eventually maybe making money on it. That's kind of, I guess, the goal. Eventually I could find people that really want help and they find this valuable. And I don't know if it'll be with a boot camp on the course or selling individual courses or kind of teaming up and doing a joint venture with other people on courses. Those are a couple of the ideas for Podiatry Practice Mastery. But regardless, it actually has made me money, only because I'm interviewing these different people on different topics. For example, Shockwave, and my utilization of Shockwave is, jumped through the roof. Or I've interviewed different people on different marketing topics, and that's really helped me becoming friends with Jim McDonald and about websites. So all these things, I guess it really kind of secondarily has helped. And so that's the whole podcast. But I want to talk to you today about a podcast I was invited to, and I was invited to a physical therapist in town. He's doing a podcast. I think he's on episode 10. And, he already seems like it's in front of me. But what I liked is he is interviewing orthopedic surgeons and surgeons that constantly refer patients to him. So I've really admired Sean. And he basically has a little newsletter, and on that newsletter that goes out to these orthopedists or people that refer to him to do physical therapy. Hey, you want to be part of my podcast? It's a health podcast. The better thing I appreciate in his, which I didn't do, is these are people that are actually sending him patients, and I wasn't. And the reason I wasn't frankly, is because I did try to get some primary cares to do the healthy living interviews, but the primary cares really weren't that passionate about healthcare. It was really kind of strange. Not really strange. I guess it's pretty normal. But they just, I wanted to talk to a primary care, because who do we get most of our referrals from? Would be a primary care doctor. And so I was like, hey, maybe I can interview these about their healthy living topics. But they weren't that healthy. Like, they weren't that interested in health. They weren't, they were just kind of in the daily grind. And so what I appreciated in Sean's is he was doing with these orthopedists and other people, like podiatrists. I'm going to be doing an interview for him today. And like he's talking to us about what we're passionate about, and we're also referring patients to him. So the flip side is, well, if you guys want to do a podcast within podiatry, I would recommend doing it with people that are a group that's sending patients. So maybe a better way, instead of doing it for primary cares, unless you find a really passionate primary care, do it with like a physical therapist, or do it with a shoe store, or do it with someone else that you're already referring, giving, and getting referrals from. And the other thing I liked about his whole process, once again, when you develop this, his process was good. So he scheduled it with me. He used Zoom, and with Zoom, he is doing two things. There's a Zoom format where you can do a webinar, and he's doing that so he can get the video. And then he is pulling out the video and making it an MP3, which is just the audio file that he puts on, I think it's Podbean. The video, he probably puts it on YouTube. He does it live, and so he sends it out to all of his patients and probably his staff to do like a staff training on a certain topic. And so it's utilizing it in multiple formats, which is the key. You want to do things one time and have it be used for multiple formats. And then he creates goodwill with me. Why? Because he sent me a nice little postcard that said, hey, Don, thank you for being part of the podcast 2021. An actual individual little postcard signed by him. So he must have printed them off somewhere and signed them. And then also he sent me a Yeti cup, basically a thank you cup. And that's creating reciprocity, basically, because he's sending me that. He's hoping, and probably he's right, I'll be sending more patients over to him. So that's this process. Now, what I want to talk to you about, as well as we're finishing up this, is don't compare version 3.0 of someone else to your version 1.0. And what do I mean by that? Well, I've done a lot of these interviews and a lot of these podcasts, and I saw Sean's system, and I was like, gosh, he's like 10 steps ahead of me. And I'm reading a book by Robert Ringer right now. I think it's called something about intimidation. I forgot exactly the name, but in there he talks about that. It doesn't matter where someone else is at. Like Sean, I feel like he's a few steps ahead of me. Meaning he has this nice little postcard, this little Yeti cup, this process. He's doing Zoom, a webinar, and things like that. I have a different process that I'm using, and I don't have these touch points afterwards. But it's not good to compare. If we start comparing, and I want to bring this down to the level of your website or your marketing for your practice. If you're starting to compare with others' websites, like, oh gosh, they got 300 reviews on Google, I'm just going to give up. Or, I have this horrible website that I put together myself, or, all these things we tend to compare. And comparison is the thief of joy. And if you do that, you're just going to kind of be down in the dumps. So what I would say is don't compare to me, don't compare to anyone in terms of your practice. What you want to do is you want to look at what you're doing and try to improve the process. So maybe I'm on version 2.0, he's on version 5.0, and we just constantly improve that process. And there is a process that I've learned in Strategic Coach, which is great. It's called an experience transformer. And basically all that means, it's real simple. You kind of look at what's working. So you get a piece of paper and you, let's say, talk about my podcast. And so I look at, and I'll do it verbally with you here in this podcast. So I have these podcasts I do called Healthy Living. So I interviewed a physical therapist yesterday. And so what's working? Well, there was a nice interview. It was easy to set up on Calendly. It had a nice reminder so they didn't forget. It has a nice post reminder. I sent her the actual video so she could use it. So those are all good things. What are the things that aren't working? I don't really have a nice actually mailed postcard that I could send to her. That's something that I could add. I don't consistently give them the video in an edited format, so I thought about doing that so they could use it on their website, where you kind of cut out me asking questions and just give them the video. I did that for one doctor, which was kind of a neat thing, but that's something that I didn't do that I could do. And then I could also give a little gift, so I could send like a Yeti cup or one other type of gift for them. But what I did do good is I sent them 20 books. So the plantar fasciitis book and the Achilles tendonitis book, I sent those books directly via Amazon to them, which is a real easy thing to do. I think it cost me $80 to do that, but they can give them out to all their patients that come in with plantar fasciitis and Achilles tendonitis. So those are things that could. So you basically look at what worked, what didn't work, and what you could do differently. And those are the things that could do differently. I think it's real important to do that, to sit down and write on a piece of paper one aspect. You have to keep it real limited. Well, let's look just at how I'm doing with Google reviews, or how I'm doing with this or that, and just what's working, what's not working, and what would you do different, and then make a plan, like just a few things. And really the key I've realized, and you probably realized, we're busy with patients. Like if you can get 3 things done in a week working on your business, that's pretty good. That's all I write down. 3 things. How can I do these 3 things and get them done in the week? And that's really progress. Okay, so anyway, those are the thoughts today about this interview and podcasting. And if you want any help, or you have any questions, or you want to learn more, please let me know. Okay, have a great day.